had them in there since January. Born in November 21. Yep.
So that's 5 or 6 going to Sanders, not Sanders, Old Camp.
End of the
I'd like to start the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions, corrections?
You did have those additions. I actually added them to the printouts, but they weren't on the posted, so you might want to mention those last two.
Zoning enforcement in Mano Point was probably not
Advertised.
with the packet. Anything else you want to change or modify? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
First thing up is public comments. Envision Eye Care, and I think, Chris, you're here?
Yes, sir.
And Chris, is this broadcasting?
I was going to say,
Oh,
We don't have that
that
microphone.
mic's not working, so
Will that
I've just
pick
been
it up?
using that.
Yeah, I think it probably will. Most of the time, these are pretty good.
Yep.
so I'm here today representing Envision Eye Care Properties, LLC. A couple of you were here at the council meeting, but Randy, you weren't, so for everyone. They are seeking a tax abatement of property that they own, which is the old Ponderosa restaurant right over here. They want to, the current owners of Envision Eye Care Center are Burris and LeClaire LLC, so Dr. Sicily and Lab Art. And they want to turn that area into a modern, up-to-date medical facility with a larger space. So they have this 1.6 acre parcel of real estate. And what they're doing is seeking a tax abatement from the council because this area is part of an abatement, a TIF allocation area. We're required to have approval from the executive that approved the TIF allocation area, which is the commissioners. So, and the reason for that is the excess, any property taxes captured over the amount that were being captured or that were in existence at the time the TIF allocation area went into effect, goes into the TIF fund. If you guys recall, you're returning 85% of that, I believe, right now. Actually, the redevelopment commission is returning 85% of that back to the assessed valuation is being returned back. 15% is being collected, and that TIF allocation area, which is TIF 1, actually expires June 30th, 2025. It's only about 2 years. So these guys have submitted to the council and auditor their form, which I believe you have a copy of. It's an SB1. They're seeking real estate abatement only, not personal property abatement. So that will be abating, if it's approved, the increase in property taxes that is caused by their efforts that they're going to be going through. So what they're going to do, real briefly, Randy, is putting in a new roof with metal flashing, milling, resurfacing, striping the parking lot, repainting the entire exterior with a new facade. The interior basically is gutted because they had a massive water leak years ago, which was not discovered for some period of time. So they will redo the entire interior of the facility, all new modern equipment, and it'll be greatly expanded from what they have downtown right now. They are hoping to add at least one additional optometrist, some additional staff. Those numbers are listed in the SB1 as well, along with the investment. And one of the things they pointed out in the council meeting, and the doctors couldn't be here today because they had appointments all scheduled and all. So rather than have to redo those, they just asked me to come in. They are hoping to attract more ocular specialists to the area, and they spoke about that a little bit. Right now, they don't have the room or the equipment to be able to do that, but they're hoping to bring them in so as to keep people from having to go to Owensboro, Evansville, or other places for some of the procedures that they currently have to do and leave to do. So that's kind of a summary of what was brought forth for the council last 2 weeks ago, week ago or so. And as I said, the law requires that the Perry County Commissioners approve this, because if an abatement is granted by the council, whatever amount is abated will not, of course, go into the TIF allocation fund. My expectation is if the building were, they don't even have their permit yet, they're going before the, they had a technical advisory committee meeting with the city Wednesday of last week. They have to get their development plan approved, and I think they're going to have a plan commission meeting. I'm not taking part in that, they're doing that themselves. I think they're having a plan commission meeting sometime next week, I believe, and maybe the week after. They don't have to have any other zoning approval, it's properly zoned already, so just development plan approval. And then once they get that approval, they'll get their building permit issued and be ready to move on, assuming they can get that. So the work would be done at the earliest towards the end of this year, first of next year. So when will taxes, my guess is taxes would, maybe a year's worth of taxes would impact the TIF allocation area, assuming it's not extended by the redevelopment commission, and I have no reason to believe that they've even talked about doing that. So that's why we're here. Anybody have any questions I can answer at all?
You knew I would.
I knew you would.
If I'm understanding correctly, Chris, and I did a little reading on it, because it is an allocated area for TIF, then we
Yes.
have to say that this is an area that requires redevelopment because of certain blighted
Yes.
things to this nature, that it would not be redeveloped if we do not carry out this action. Its state statute has several things in there that's a requirement.
That's required by the council, you're correct.
Right. And then we're supposed to take a look at the SB1, which page 2 doesn't necessarily have what the council has decided as far as an abatement, whether it's a year, 10 years, how much
Correct.
they're, so it's left unfilled.
Right.
And I know it's kind of the court and the horse whole thing here, whether the council should act first, whether the commissioners.
The statute does not say.
I
Did
know.
you notice that?
I
It's
read
not
through
at
it.
all clear as to
I
who
didn't
should act
have a-
first.
Yeah, so, and I truly, I like to see a local business spend some money, expand, provide additional services here. But it's tough. See, and it's just like the employment. The problem that I see, and this is really outside of the commissioners, is that we held an earlier council, took a process and went through what they were going to provide, what they were asking for abatement, what they were going to deliver. And they determined whether they were going to grant abatement by following that same procedure and that form. On here, you made mention, we hope to employ additional people.
Right.
That creates an ambiguity, are you or are you not? And I understand where this is all at. So I struggle with this whole process, to be honest, because these are the people that we constantly reach out to ask for contributions, to contribute to our community, to continue the service, and they're looking to expand.
I can speak a little of that.
But I really,
Well,
however we can support them.
I understand. And what I was going to say, Randy, every year they have to come back before the council, and the council has to approve every abatement every year. And so that's when they look at, did they do the investment? Have they hired the employees? If not, why not? It gives, I think you guys.
Every
done
year they
that?
have to file a
Yeah.
CF1 with their business personal property returns. Every year that CF1, any abatements that have been approved throughout the county, every year, all of those CF1s have to be approved by the council. And those have to be turned in by May the 15th, so they'll usually come towards the end of May at those council meetings for those to be approved.
And that is correct. But the problem of it is if we don't have established targets that we're going to hit with the business. Then when they come in a month or in a year and ask again for renewal, there should be a basis that the council decided to grant this
Right.
abatement on. My opinion, and you two can discuss this, is that I don't have a problem with passing this as far as the commissioners are concerned, but I believe the council should actually determine first if this is something that they're gonna be supportive of. I would feel like if the council comes in and says, we're good to go, and we've got an arrangement with them that works, I wouldn't wanna stand in front of that as the commissioners are concerned. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
This is a 10-year abatement?
It's whatever the council, and that's
See,
part of the
that's
issue.
part of it. We don't have that-
Yes, is what they've asked for, but that doesn't mean they'll get it. So, yeah, it is a chicken and, I don't know which comes first, and I don't know if Andrew knows either, but I've looked at the statute and it is not clear.
Yeah.
And we have no problem coming back to you after they decide, but I wanted to get it in front of you.
Yeah.
Because if you guys are an outright, no, I don't care what the council says, then we stop. If you're, well, let's wait and see what the council says, then at least I know where I
The
stand.
finances are basically an issue the council addresses.
Correct,
Money.
absolutely.
And we're out here just more of a legislative end of it that is operational. And if the council, this is just my personal opinion, if the council's okay with setting something up, I'm okay with signing off whatever we need to on this TIF deal. But,
Council's the actual financial end of it.
yeah, they're the ones that will go through the
Yes.
process, establish an abatement, establish a percentage amount and how this is all structured. They'll put in place if they want to have restrictions that you will provide, X number of jobs, or you will invest so many dollars, whatever that plan ends up being. Right now, we don't even know what that'll be. And it's really not, the only reason they're even involving us is because it's a TIF district.
Really?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have no issue here whatsoever. But it's already been allocated, so the tax dollars have to be diverted into the TIF district. This is a pass-through of 85%. That's the reason Chris is here.
That's right.
And the only reason
Yeah.
we're involved.
No, that's what I kind of thought, since we have
Yeah.
never dealt with this. I've never dealt
No,
with it.
and you never would, no.
Uh.
You normally never would.
Last
Yeah.
night, Mark reached out to me, and we talked about 5 or 10 minutes, Mark Levhart, Dr. Levhart, and he explained a little bit what their future of this looks like. They're going to work hand in hand with the hospital. Last year, they did about 160 surgeries up there, like cataract. They hope to expand that, especially if they hire that new doctor, which that's in the plan. So that's going to work side by side with the hospital also.
I mean,
And more
it's-
business to the hospital.
It's a great thing for the
Yes, it
community
is.
that they're
Yeah.
taking on this, because, it's a service that will be provided locally
Yeah.
versus getting in the car and traveling
Right.
minimum of 40 minutes to
Yeah.
get.
No, if-
And they did a much better job of explaining that to council meeting than I just did to you. Because it's near and dear to their hearts.
Yeah,
and they're,
exactly. They live it,
Yeah.
so.
And they are part of our community. That's,
Mhm.
they're,
Local.
and as it's been told to me before, I think it's somewhat, they put a roof on the building. He acknowledged that.
They did.
I understand that. When your building's leaking and it's gonna rot underneath you, you gotta get the water out of it. So they took that on. I get that. Save their property.
If they were to come, get like, this is all hypothetical, get a 3-year abatement, could they come back and try to get this renewed for longer?
I don't think so.
When it's just like, everything
think
needs
so.
to take effect prior to an
Right.
investment.
An investment,
Because that's
okay.
one of the things, if not but for, is a part of Indiana statute that they apply to a lot of things that, in other words, if they're gonna do this irregardless of an abatement,
Mm-hmm.
then we shouldn't be giving them an abatement. This is a council issue, but that's basically how it happens. So they need to apply for it, get approval, and start their construction. That's just the process. But I'm one to not get out of my lane on this one, and
It's kind of a flip-flop situation here.
That's fine with me.
I mean-
Your indication is fine with me,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
are you guys, in the event, let's say, if the council comes forward and says we want to grant them abatement in some fashion, Do either one of you have a problem with signing off?
No.
No, I do not. I think,
Today?
Good enough.
my opinion, I think we need to support a local business like that as much as we can at our level here.
I think we're on the same page.
I think we are too,
So-
I appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
if you just work with the council, and if they come up with a plan or something that can work, the commissioners are not gonna stand in your
Okay.
way,
Right.
and we'll pass this resolution. and-
We'll get back on their agenda and we'll
Because-
go from there.
And any other business out there that would like to make an investment, we need to support them also.
Perfect.
Any way we can.
Thank you, Bud. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Minutes from 3/21/23. Any additions, modifications, corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, need a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item is Chris, our auditor. Their list of items.
We've got the 327 payroll in the amount of 165,363.88. Do you want me to do all these together, or you want to do them separate?
Together.
Together, okay.
I'm okay too.
Approval of the 4/3 claim docket, $419,277.03. Life insurance and health insurance claims together totaling $133,616.77.
You want to keep the health insurance outside of this?
I did life and health, I did a total together, I'm sorry.
That's a total for both of them,
For both
Chris?
of them, yeah,
Okay.
sorry. I grouped those together, I apologize. So I don't have an individual total for those, but that's the grand total.
Any comments or questions over the 4 items dealing with
No.
claims?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one up is Steve Howe, additional appropriation.
I have 3 additional appropriations I'm asking for. One of them's $119,440. This is for our bridge inspection, which we will be reimbursed 80% of this. We have to pay it all up front, and then they'll pay us back 80% as the process goes through.
That's for this year, right?
Starting this year, yes. And you want to do all 3 of them?
Probably.
Yeah. 700,000, that's our paving money, or lit. Part of this will be used for community crossings match if we get community crossings. If not, we'll do what we can do with that amount on paving.
And that community crossings comes out in April, sometime
They,
this month?
I looked on the computer and they said it should be announced last March, 1st of April, so any day. Thinking they're, yeah. Then I have, for a part-time mechanic, $3,754. The guy we got hired, is on Social Security, and they raised the amount he could draw this year. So we're putting in earned $3,754 more, and we'll have him a little longer that way.
They're hard to come by these
They
days,
are,
aren't they?
yes, they are. This one's pretty valuable too.
Yeah.
Any comments, questions?
No.
No.
Hearing none, we have a motion.
I make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
3-0.
Thank you.
I will say this, Steve. I went and visited the county highway garage. I'm trying to make my way around to all the different departments. I ain't been to yours yet, Warren. That's probably the last one that I want to see.
Call me before you come, so make
Yeah.
sure there's nothing going on.
Yeah, I don't want to see none of that. But I will say that Steve Howe runs a well-oiled machine out there. His records, his employees, he's top-notch.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next item is the resolution for the RDC and the use of the TIF funds is what it is on Canton Heights. Andrew?
Yes, so
I'm sure most of you are aware about the planned housing development for the Canton Heights subdivision area. The redevelopment commission's been working with Ice Miller to get the TIF district established for that housing development. Redevelopment has passed that change. Plan Commission has also passed that change, and the legal next step would then be for the commissioners to approve the plan and redevelopment plan to get this TIF district established for the housing development. So all those documents were generated by Ice Miller. They've been working with redevelopment about the timeline, the resolutions, the orders, etc. So I'm passing that along for your consideration from both redevelopment and the Plan Commission.
And I believe the Plan Commission has already approved this.
Yes.
Right. What this actually amounts to is that the TIF district did not extend into where the subdivision is. And in order for them to spend TIF money out of the courthouse TIF, they have to expand into that area to legally do it. And this has to be signed both by council and commissioners.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So are we're not gonna take any action here. You're gonna do that at the joint meeting?
We can do that on the 5th, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Did you have it planned that way? Unless-
Yeah, we can.
Unless we
I
go
just
ahead and
need-
approve it, I mean, we can. And then there would just be the council doing it on the 5th when we have the joint meeting.
That sounds good.
So,
I'm good with
we
that.
need to move on.
Yeah.
Any questions? Comments? If not, we need a motion to approve.
I make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item up is asset management. Chris, you want to go
You
over
want
that?
me to talk about that? Okay.
Sure.
We have, in the auditor's office, and some of the council and commissioners have been speaking with Data Pit Stop, which is a software that we had here at the courthouse used for many different reasons. One part of the software that we are not utilizing right now is asset management and inventory. That's something that I would like to get going. It will help a lot with the annual financial report, where basically we can keep this information updated throughout the year, and it will be as simple as an upload for the AFR. With that, we will have to, with inventory, we will have to designate suitors for each department office. Of course, the auditor's office will oversee all of the other capital assets and all that information, but as far as inventory, setting a suitor, each department head will need to set a suitor for their office to enter all of their inventory. The recommended threshold is 250. That will kind of hit a lot of our printers in excess. I also recommend that we go ahead and do an inventory. I know the threshold of 250 will not necessarily hit all of our monitors in our offices, but we can include our PCs and everything together as one. So basically, just set a suitor for each department to enter the inventory. And then if they would ever get rid of anything, then they would go into this system and delete that off. It would send a notification to the auditor's office, hey, we've got rid of this equipment. Basically, it's just compiling all the information together. I've got Darren from Data Pit Stop set to come down to do a training with all of the suitors from each office on April 27th, or April 24th, sorry. April 24th, so that's why I needed to have this, we need to set an ordinance here for the setting of the suitors, so we can have that in place for the 24th for the training. This is a software we're already paying for. It's not any additional expense. We'll just start utilizing that part of the software.
And you have to do a state report anyway, it's a
Right.
requirement.
Yes.
So it just basically puts every department in control control of their assets to keep
Yeah.
it up to speed.
That's good.
And they just need an ordinance and then designate someone so that when he shows up for training, they can be trained as to how it works.
Okay.
I've got some sample ordinances.
I got a question on that, because I asked last year to get.
We're gonna get everybody up here
Okay.
eventually so they can hear.
Okay. Well, last year I went and got paperwork from the auditor's office on what equipment we had in our office, at the coroner's office. There's only like 5 items on it, but one of them, like a vehicle that was bought back in, I think when Darrell Riley was coroner. Nobody knows where this vehicle's at anymore. I mean, and I've got a bunch of old monitors and computers that's never been registered on paperwork anyplace. That stuff I need to get rid of this old stuff. I got about 6 or 7 cameras that are 35 millimeters that the county has bought over the years. There's nothing showing where the county ever, listed them as assets. And those cameras need to be discarded because they don't work. They're 35 millimeter, and then you have to have somebody develop the film because we're using digital now. So,
This is a good starting place for us, and this is a software that I think will help us utilize the communication with the auditor's office based on, from each department.
Okay.
A lot of it, I think beforehand has just been done with printing out paper spreadsheets. This is a good thing to where, it's not going to be necessarily printing out a report and finding out which file it's in or whose desk it's on. This will help us utilize and basically keep all of that information together, and so I think this is a good starting point.
well, all this old stuff, should I go ahead and take pictures of it, bring it for you, and
What we did here 6 or 8 months ago is we had excess equipment in a car.
Yeah.
And you have to get us a list, and we'll determine its excess. We decided, I think, to have Dixon and Dixon auction it off.
you won't get anything out
Well,
of
but
the
we'll get it,
cameras.
we'll get it transferred from the county to whatever.
Okay.
And it'll move along so that it no longer is in your way, because if we have it if it's obsolete, unusable, sitting in your way,
It is.
we just need to officially move it off the county books.
See, well, that's it, it's not even on the county books as far as say that we even got access to it, but it's stuff that's been purchased over the years, it's,
Just needs to be cleaned up.
And this is a good
Housekeeping.
time for us to start that, so then you can
Okay.
set, hey, this is the stuff that I'm going to have in my inventory, and then you'll have your list of stuff to bring
Get
here
rid
that you're
of.
gonna get rid of, and then we're gonna.
okay, that's fine,
get started.
thanks.
And that'll go for everybody, because I'm sure you're not unique.
Yes.
No, okay.
Thank you, board.
Any other questions if we're?
I do have
Okay.
some sample ordinances, so I'll get those to Andrew, and we'll get that rolling and have that ready.
Next time
Next
I mean,
time.
do you think you'll have that for the?
I think we could have that ready
Yeah.
for the 5th,
If there's
yeah.
if there's a sample, we can.
Yeah.
So, everyone's okay, we'll
We
let
just
that pass and.
Prove it then? Yeah.
Yep, I'll have the ordinance ready on the 5th.
Okay. Next item is the county checking account bank interest. We are researching opportunities to make more interest. And currently, the interest is spread among, 15 or 20 different accounts? And what we're looking at is trying to codify it into one account, and it would be an interest account. Now, I have read a little bit about this, and there's some statutes that I was reading concerning federal money, and the interest associated with the federal money has to remain in that fund. So I'm not exactly sure, probably highway dollars to a degree. I don't know what else would be classed as federal money, but the remainder of it then could be rolled over and put into an account. We just got to watch to make sure we're handling it correctly. But then it would give us another, instead of what it does, it dribbles out a little bit into each account instead of having something, and the council's real good at using the riverboat funds. So this would give them another source for these incidental things that pop up.
And one thing, Randy, with that, if you said federal money, I think that lieu of taxes comes off the forestry would count as federal money. So we'd have to watch that one too.
Probably anything, because I'd read that, and I'm not exactly, it's probably on the Federal Register someplace, but it
Maybe
came
the
up.
tribal fund also, I don't know if that's,
No, that's a grant to us.
oh, that is a grant, okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know
same.
if that was federal money or what.
It is federal money, though.
Yeah, it is federal money, that's
We need
what I
to
thought.
make sure we're clear about what,
From
What's
what
federal
I
and
have
what's
been
state?
told from Robert Norris and the, with the DLGF and the State Board of Accounts, which is a lot of the stuff that I sent you guys, the way they're explaining it, it is to each county's decision what they do with their banking, checking account interest, okay? Now, we cannot take funds out of a highway or restricted account to invest. They can, but that money has to go right back into that account if we would invest it in like a CD or something like that. But checking account interest is the county's. So there's no restriction on that. You're up to the county. The bank interest is totally different. That's not like taking their money out of their fund or out of their allocation. Do you see what I'm saying? Understand what I'm saying? The
Right.
checking account
Yeah.
interest is the county's. That's not considered part of theirs. And there are several counties, which I did not email you. I did a study, and a majority of the counties in Indiana have this kind of, have a setup to where all their checking account interest, the monthly checking account interest goes into that fund, not a breakdown. Majority of them are set up like this to where it gives them that extra money for emergencies, not necessarily. Because right now what's happening is it's getting divvied up into these funds. So then you have an appropriation for these funds that you give them each year. And then these selected funds or whatever are able to come back and ask for additional appropriations and whatnot due to the fact that their fund or their account has more money in it.
Or it would be divided up, it goes into one fund instead of being divided
Yes,
up.
so then the additional appropriations and whatnot would come out of that fund, or the county can say, hey, we've got a good little slush fund or what build up here. We can take some of the funds out of this account, which is the county's money because it's the interest off of the checking account, and they can, the county can invest it. Do you see what I'm saying? And then that's free. So I gave you guys all the supporting documents that I have received from the State Board of Accounts and DLGF, basically, and we have no ordinance right now stating what we should be doing with the checking account interest. There's nothing stating that we have to, even if we did, you guys could rescind it if you chose to, but there's nothing stating that this breakdown has to happen. This would basically give us another emergency fund for additional appropriations instead of always going to the riverboat or now going to the tribal. Plus, it would give us, as a county, you know, some leeway to where I look at it, and I know I've said this to you guys, I look at it as like a household savings account. You know, not the rainy day fund, but your emergency fund. You keep enough in there for an emergency situations, for additional appropriations and stuff like that that come up. But then you could also use it as, oh, okay, we get so much money, we're going to invest this in a CD and get a higher rate of interest and make money for the county
It's
as a county.
like a buffer.
well, instead of dividing it $100
Yeah.
between 10
I know.
accounts, it's gonna
It'll
have
go in one
one
account,
account,
yeah.
1,000.
And the way it is too is right now you've got it set to where, okay, these other accounts, they manage their money. You know, they see, okay, I have so much appropriated, but I've got 300,000 more in this account. Okay, I'll just submit for an additional appropriation, and that's money that's in their account. It's not in the county general. Where this would be in the county general and more applicable. And I think, you know, you dividing it up between 10 to 15 accounts, who's to say all these other departments, accounts say, hey, you know, I want a portion of that checking account interest too. I just think this makes more controlled
Accountability.
And like I said, a majority of the counties in Indiana have it set up this way.
Does that get divided evenly?
Mm-mm. It's based on a percentage.
Now, does that include the, our money out there too, the motor vehicle and the stress road loan and all that?
Your restricted would not be included because your restricted has to be separate, but yeah.
What about the stress road loan?
Mhm. Yeah.
What if they want to put a fund up, situation where they can, or the highway department?
Mhm.
You mentioned that, and then, could that be used for a special fund for them then also?
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not restricted, you can use it for whatever you want to.
Yeah, so that might be what you could do at the highway, Steve.
Okay, Steve, when you turn around and, come up here a minute, I'm gonna get everybody accustomed to this. We just appropriated $700,000.
Yeah.
Does that actually transfer, or does that stay in the highway fund? How is that money
That one's out
actually?
of lit, that one's out of lit, so
Yeah.
it's totally different. But if you're looking at the other one,
Yes, as an example.
the 120,
Okay.
that will come out of county general into there. Now then, if we get the 80% reimbursed,
Yep.
then it will go, the 80% will go back into county general.
Okay, in this,
That comes out of our bridge fund.
But there's nothing,
That's not-
in this, she's talking about your bridge inspection.
Yeah.
Getting a kickback. And I think you got one for the bridge you're working on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But when you get those funds, do they just set in an account?
Yeah, that,
Until you
like one for
expend
the
them,
bridge,
or-
then the Cume Bridge Fund, yeah.
See, is there an option for them, we're looking through the Indiana, whatever.
That's not federal, is it? That's state.
No, but
That's federal.
I think
It's federal.
if he takes
Well, the
his,
state does the book work, but it's federal funds, just like
Okay.
community crossings. That's federal money, but the state handles it further.
with the interest
Highway.
currently coming up now, it's well over 4% that we can get it overnight.
Yeah.
So if you have funds that's laying around that you know you're gonna write a check, but you can transfer them in and out in a day, it may be, if we don't have it in the county and you got it, you may set up with them, it's the Indiana Bond Bank, and you can just
Okay.
transfer money, and you can make yourself additional interest
That's
in
what I
those
looked into.
accounts. So it may be an option that we
Yeah.
wanna look into because the interest rates are up. So any place we can pick up a dollar,
Okay.
it's beneficial.
It would
for
be
all of us.
beneficial for your department, highway
Yeah.
department.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rather than just laying in a bank balance.
yeah.
But here's the
Okay.
whole thing. We don't have separate checking accounts. It's not like a separate, we're actually gonna be down to 2 checking accounts here. So you can't take money out of what they've given to you. So if the state has given you that, you can't take money out of that and use it for something else.
Right.
But the checking account interest, and I'm actually thinking to the point that since we've put, like, so far, we can't go back and say, hey, we've given you guys $100,000 in bank interest and take that out. We can't take that out now. But if we put an ordinance in effect for, May 1st going forward, checking account interest is going to go into a separate fund than that going forward. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not,
Yeah, the only thing, I think if you've got another counties that have done this,
Yes.
use them as our
Absolutely.
guidance, because I'm assuming they're handling it correctly.
Mhm.
But,
You get a large amount of money and you can draw quite a bit of interest off of it to go into that fund. That would be well worth it.
even like our property tax revenue
Yeah.
that comes in
Mhm.
twice a year, if we have excess and it's gonna be expended over a 3 or 4 month period of time, if we can draw some decent interest on that, then we'll have additional
Mhm.
funds
Yeah.
to do other things.
I know our distress road loan, well, we should be getting another one this year, 600,000, but that, we draw interest off of that, I know out there, helps out a lot.
Makes a difference rather
Yeah.
than just letting it sit in
Yeah.
a
Right.
non-interest bearing account.
Yeah.
and we will definitely work, with the other counties that if they decide to do this,
Okay.
with the other counties and make sure everything's
Okay.
good on that end.
All right, thank you.
So, we need to get an ordinance.
Ordinance, mhm.
Which we do not have,
Okay.
but any comments? questions? Are we on board with drafting an ordinance?
Yes.
I think it's a good idea, because if you can make money these days instead of lose money,
Every dollar counts.
that's right, you gotta stretch them dollars.
Okay, so do we want to have this, I doubt that I can have both ordinances ready by 4 or 5. I mean, I could try, but if I have it ready by 4 or 5, I'll bring it. If not,
We'll just have it on the
we'll
next.
do it on the May, because we'll have to go to you guys before the council, so we'll do it, have to do it in May then.
The late April.
The late April, and then, yeah, that's right, April 18th. So I'll have it by April 18th at the latest.
Next item is the restricted fund for building maintenance. The council approved setting aside .05 for building maintenance. And we have never set up a fund to divert that money into as it's collected. But we had talked about making it a restricted fund, so it's used strictly for county facilities and their upkeep.
That's off the edit, right?
Yeah.
And the edit went into effect March 23rd,
The new rate went in January 1st.
but we didn't have our new edit plan set.
Yeah, we set that was in March sometime.
March,
Yeah.
okay.
So, I think it's just a matter of establishing that restricted maintenance fund for county property.
Do we need a motion on that, Randy?
I would think so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of establishing the restricted fund for building maintenance? I think we want to make that property in general, because we might have something else we want to do besides just a building.
Yeah,
Run into it.
well, we ran into that at the armory with the water line.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
whatever
was-
it amounts to, something maintenance
Yeah.
wise for county properties. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
The next one is the animal shelter update, work in progress.
okay. I'm waiting on a call back from the guttering gentleman. I want him to get that down, and then we will move forward, and the Red Gorilla will come in and power wash. It's kind of a setting up a schedule for these people, because the guttering has to come down, it has to be power washed, then it has to be painted, and then the guttering has to go back up. So I'm trying to get all this situated on a schedule. And have you, Molly, talked to anyone about the color? Remember I told you
Meeting her tomorrow.
you're meeting
At the
She
shop.
Paint tomorrow? Okay, and she has this app on her phone that she can take a picture of the building, and Molly can pick out a color, and they can paint it. You know, it'll look like that. And I think that's kind of neat. But you know, bids are still out for other painters. I don't know how many more we're going to get, but and she has also included in her bid a painting of the handrails and everything also, which if they're going to be there, they might as well do it. And I have made that clear to the other painters that have put in bids, that the handrails and everything. The door is hung, correct?
Well,
And-
not the door, the actual door part's not. There's, they came yesterday and put another coat of drywall mud
Right.
on.
Right, he's
So-
going ahead and drywalling that area, and then with the ceiling, the drop ceiling, they're having to do a little work there. And they already ran the wire over to the office, and that's for the security door that we had, we're getting installed. And Tony Thomas should be there by the end of the week to get that wired in, and then they can finish that door, and they're gonna put a primer coat of paint on it. So whenever you go to painting inside, you can just paint it whatever color you want. Another thing that the Animal Welfare and Control Board was looking at was, right now, we have 4 animal ordinances in this county, 4 different ones. And what we're going to try to do is get with Andrew and make a joint one animal ordinance. because it helps law enforcement when they have to go after animals or anybody or anything, we'll have one ordinance. So we'll go before Troy, Tell City, and County and try to get, so, you know, I'll go to their meetings and ask for their approval and then have it, give them copies of our ordinances and let it go. And it's saving time and it's saving them a lot of looking up stuff. Go ahead.
I know you want to make them all mirror each other, that's great, that's a great
Yes.
idea, but I want to make sure you're not just one, like, I can't enforce, Tell City can't enforce a county ordinance, and so all that have to be the same, but they enforce their own.
Right, they
Okay,
enforce
I just wanna
their
make
own.
sure. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yes, the cities will enforce their own. Mhm. But it will all be in the one ordinance. And we have worked on some different stuff, removing stuff and out of the present ordinance and putting different stuff in, which I will bring before the commissioners, because I think when you change an ordinance or take out or put in, it has to be approved. And I'll get you one, Alan.
Yeah.
And in that way, this ordinance can be put in every law enforcement's vehicle.
If you put it together like a draft.
Yes.
Becky, and then just share
Yes.
comments.
Yes.
Because there may be something that slips somebody's thoughts.
Right.
Simplify it.
Included.
Please.
Simplified is always easiest.
And I have our things down at the shelter, Molly. You can, come on up here. We made Steve and everybody else, so you have to too. Warren.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're moving along. We have 3 dogs currently in the shelter that law enforcement have brought in. Last week was a busy week. One day we had 4 brought in. So that's that's busy.
Yeah.
I was able to return 3 of them back to their homes.
Good.
One is still with me. I think it was a dump. So I've got 2 dumps now at the shelter from the county that have taken place in the county. So that's what's going on with the dogs. As far as the building wise, you've given that update. I had a company come in to check out the mold, and I'm waiting for a report back on that. I was told it was gonna be back last Wednesday. Made a call this morning to him, told him about this meeting, and he said he would get it to me. Still haven't got it. So that's something that we're gonna be working on too, because I can't get a cleaning company to come in with the state of the building right now. And we still have a couple leaks with the roof. So we've got to get that buttoned up. And I know we have a warranty on the roof. I talked to the workers that come out, and we may need to, you know, be a little bit firmer that, because when they have come out the past 2 times, all they're doing is going over the screws. I think they need another coat.
Whole coat.
They need to coat the whole roof again. Because my thought is if the county paid what they paid for that roof repair, it's a 10-year warranty. We're 2 years in, and I've had 6 different spots of leaks.
We're down to 2 now, right? So far.
2. This last rain, well, Friday when the storm came through, I was there. And we had 2. So the one in the conference rooms dried up, but I've got the one in the kennel and then in the very back.
In the warehouse.
Right.
Okay.
So I think that they just need to come out and they need to really put a good coat
Heavy coat.
on the whole daggone thing.
I will
again.
contact them again and tell them, and I will say this, you know, on their behalf, when I call them, they're usually here the next day.
Yeah, they're very
They're
responsive.
very, very good about it, yeah.
The workers are very responsive, And it's just a part of doing business, they.
Yes.
And doing warranty work.
Mhm.
I mean, that's, so, but to move forward on the inside, for me to move forward on the inside, I have to feel comfortable that it's dried up.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to bring, like, I bought a printer for the animal shelter. I don't want to bring that in, because I don't want it to get damaged. So, that's where we're at. We're moving forward, a little something every day.
It's time consuming, and I know a lot of people want the shelter open yesterday, but we don't want to put you as a director in that building when it's not ready.
Yeah,
We
it's
want
not
it
ready,
ready.
it's not ready yet. That's why we're doing a, we're doing a restricted opening
Mhm.
for law enforcement, because Harrison County's full.
Mhm.
They can, it's putting a real strain on them to take our stray animals. And I'm there, so, and to save the county money, for us to send it to
Correct.
Harrison County, let's keep it here local.
Those bills to Harrison County are getting pretty.
They're
Yeah.
getting healthy.
We're getting pretty. yeah.
Right, so let's keep the money here and let's get these dogs back home. I'm meeting with law enforcement this morning, and we are going to, get a plan together on what's gonna take place with these strays, who to call.
Mhm.
We're just gonna kinda come together and get a plan, so moving forward, so everybody knows, because they were calling Harrison County. Dispatch was calling Harrison County, so.
Right.
That's gonna be taken care of as well.
And another thing, Andrew, I may need you to, we had discussed this, we have a contract with Harrison County now, that they come and pick up our animals and take them up there. Since the shelter is going to be opening soon, and being good neighbors, I would like to see, and I've talked with Molly about this, and I've talked with these two gentlemen here, of making a reciprocal contract and going for Charlie Crawford, which is he's a commissioner over the shelter, and trying to get a reciprocal contract where we can help them out too. But, it's not gonna come free, it's gonna come at a cost. But since theirs is full, and like I told Molly, I don't want you to get overwhelmed with Harrison County, because we need room for our own. Put up, like, if they wanted to bring 6 down, once the kennels are open, or 5, or whatever, to help them out. Could you draw up a reciprocal contract?
Yeah.
And then I could take it before their commissioners.
And that would also help generate income for the
Yes,
shelter.
it would operating costs for the shelter.
Any questions for me? Comments, concerns?
You're doing good.
All right.
Doing great.
Thanks, Molly.
Hang in there. I know you will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item is the zoning enforcement, and I added that. We have this issue out, it's within the 2-mile barrier next to Tell City, and we've had this discussion. Tell City has the zoning, but they're under the understanding they can't enforce it. The county basically doesn't have the right to enforce city zoning laws. And Andrew, I'm gonna look for your input in this one. Whatever we have to do, if there's going to be zoning applied, there needs to be a method or an entity that's going to enforce it. But Tell City says they cannot legally do that. So
Why can't they legally do it?
that's.
I don't understand that.
They had a meeting and the mayor asked their city attorney, and he said, that's right, we can't enforce that, because I watched it. So it just doesn't, it's creating a law or an ordinance, and then with no mechanism for enforcement. So whatever we have to do, whether we have to go to the city and say, we'll take back the zoning requirements of the 2-mile, whatever's county's county, and then we'll use a county ordinance to enforce it, or either getting Tell City to recognize if they are going to keep this 2-mile perimeter, that they will or can actually enforce the law. Whatever we have to do to resolve that. Because it's an incident here over at the house that's drug on way too long. And it's in violation of zoning ordinances.
So no one enforces it right now, correct?
It just sits there,
It
yeah.
just sits there.
So,
I wonder if that's something with the state. Every city maybe has to abide by that.
I have no
I'd be
idea.
curious to
Andrew, do
know
you have
that.
any
I
insight
wouldn't
on
think so.
No, I mean, I spoke to Tell City's attorney, and that, I had the same impression that you guys, and double check where he was citing that, but, I know the health department's been out to that property, and we're exploring what we can do and how we can enforce it, so, I'll get with them and see what we can get done for the next meeting.
Right. We just need to come up with something, if we're gonna have zoning, somebody needs to be able to implement it
Mhm.
and enforce it. Otherwise, it's not of any value. So, the next one we're on.
That could happen anywhere in the county.
Oh, yeah.
to tell you the
Well,
truth. Yeah.
the only thing is, if it was actually into the county could enforce. the zoning.
Right.
But any area
I'm saying
that
a
a city.
2-mile radius.
Yeah, and I don't know whether Candleton controls their area also with zoning.
I don't
but
know.
Anywhere that's a perimeter, it's not actually within their city, yet they control the area with zoning, there should be an enforcement mechanism they have to
Mhm.
follow, or then it should be turned back over to the county so that we can actually enforce the zoning on it. Either or, we just need to bring clarity to that issue to see who's
Right.
responsible. The other item I put on there was the Mano Point Boat Ramp. And Steve provided us with the dollars associated with it from last year. And I met with the Forest Service, $4,300, and is what the county had invested in cleaning that ramp last year. I met with the Forest Service to see whether they would have an interest in contributing to some of those costs, and they said they have no money. I kind of figured that, but they did, they made the statement that, you know, they had cleaned it, hired private contractors earlier, and it becomes expensive for them to clean that ramp. It just has to do with where it's located in the river, and it silts back in, it creates a requirement for cleaning. They did say that if the county doesn't want to clean it, that they would probably just leave it as it is, but they will continue to mow and maintain the property and the bathrooms and that down there.
Do they do that now?
They do it now. The original agreement was set up, so the county cleaned it, the ramp, and then they came in and mowed the property and took care of the restrooms and that. It was kind of a deal. And at the time, I was here, Randy and Tom, we didn't really know what that amounted to, you know, because we hadn't cleaned the ramp. We didn't know whether it's one and done and it's not a big deal, so we signed a contract with them to go ahead and do it. But now we've had a year's experience to see what the costs associated are, and that's why we're here now. And if we choose not to fund it, then they will change the contract and release us from it, is what they'll do. Now, I did check with the Derby Association, and their 3-year revenue doesn't show anything changed between the years that the Mano Point was closed and this current year when it was open. So there's not a lot of people that's going from there over to Mano Point because it's open and free, so.
So it's really not hurting the Derby Association financially.
No, it's not. And the one lady from the Forest Service even made mention that, you know, she didn't see a lot of trailers or anything there in the parking lot. My vision is it's probably smaller boats can deal with a little mud on the bottom of the ramp. That's why there are little fishing boats in and out of there, and they're the ones probably using it. I'm just speculating, don't know this, but then the bigger boats are all going to Derby.
Don't you use that ramp a lot, Steve?
Use it some.
You know. Is there any big boats going in and out of there that you've
Not
seen?
very often. Last year, there was one guy tried to launch a big boat there, and that time where we had cleaned it for long, they got stuck, had to be pulled out. The truck, they
think a big boat will just sink down in there, and trying to pull one of them out with suction without spinning, and that's gonna be But they did say they would keep the park open, mowed and maintained, and the restrooms operational. So it's a nice park, you know, and it's in conjunction with the Derby. I also asked about potentially leasing it to some other entity, and basically the answer is no. The Forest Service doesn't do that, so. But they said they would keep it open and maintained. So, the question is where we're at on.
What do we want to do with it?
Can we review it next year and just give it another year?
We want to invest $4,300 in it, we can. The question, I mean, the revenue down there at Derby probably is not a whole lot more than what we're paying to clean Mantle Point. And that's kind of where we're at. Now, if someone else wanted to contribute, I'm sure the Forest Service would be acceptable to clean their ramp for them, but the problem of it is it's where it's located. You know, it's not that far from Derby, but it silts. You go to Derby, the river bends, cleans that up, deep water, very little maintenance. It's just no different between Cannleton has a ramp that works, Tell City has one that's full of mud, Troy has one that works. Depending on where it's located within the river, how it flows past it. So I think it's an ongoing thing at Mantle Point. Very nice ramp, nice and flat, but it just fills up with silt.
We have, we've had 3 high waters so far this year, Steve. And it's just now going back down from this last one. Have you had to do any cleaning?
You won't clean those till boating season, I don't imagine. Yeah.
There was a small contractor in that area told me that he offered to clean that for free a couple of years ago. He might still be.
That's the answer.
Can you get a hold of him?
Because I think, you know, if there's a way that someone takes on that task rather than you having to run the equipment down the hill and the cost associated with it, the Forest Service, I'm sure, would like to leave it, you know.
He talked to them before the ramp was open, and they wouldn't agree to him maintain it, but that was before the ramp was opened back up, so that might work.
I think it might have to do with liability.
Yeah.
Randy, I was involved in it when the city, we got contacted.
Good, you're gonna put some insight in here.
Okay, well, we were, the CVB was very involved in it in the very beginning.
Before the county got in?
Yes,
Okay.
we actually are the ones that brought it to the Park and Rec, that brought it to the county several years ago.
Okay.
In the very initial part, they actually shut it down. Hoosier National Forest shut it down completely, and that was the #1 problem. They completely shut it down. No bathrooms, no nothing.
No mowing?
No nothing.
It was abandoned.
Yeah, it was sort of abandoned, and they were gonna let it go, and then they came to us, to the CVB, and asked us to come up with a solution. The biggest problem was, with it being shut down, there's a lot of other people that use that park besides boaters. You know, you have a lot of bow fishing people that just stand on the, ramp there and shoot fish. You have a lot of motorcycle people. Anytime that we had motorcycle rides, they were stopping there. So it was a loss in the very beginning when they shut it down to Derby, because people weren't eating and then going out there and that kind of stuff. So the solution, and they did have a local contractor that he volunteered to clean it every single time. And Hoosier National Forest said, no way. You bring your piece of equipment onto our property and we will confiscate it and arrest you because it's a liability issue and you cannot clean our ramp. So they would not let that private contractor do that. I'm sure he would do it today if he could be, let to do it. But the point now that they're keeping the bathrooms open and the mowing is great. It is needed in the county and it is used a lot more than just the boaters.
It's a nice park.
Yeah, and the amount of money that they showed us the first time, I mean, my memory's not as great as what it used to be, but it was like $1,500 a year when we first started talking and meeting with them, because there wasn't, but we are getting,
$1,500 a year for what?
to clean it, to
Oh,
clean the,
ramp?
yeah. But we're getting more flooding now than what we used to have.
And part of the reason that was so high last year is because when we initially went in there was 8 foot of dirt on that ramp that had to be moved. So it wasn't
Yeah.
like a foot
Yeah.
or 2 feet. So we had to move all that dirt the first time, which, you know, you ain't gonna have once it's been maintained that long.
So if, Randy's suggestion of trying it for another year and seeing if you could make it work, you might not have to spend as much money, but I just want to point out that there's a lot of other people that use it besides boaters.
Could the CVB help anyway financially?
That's up to them,
Could you
don't,
bring that up at their,
well, I don't have any.
She no longer is.
I no longer am employed there. I'm on their upcoming agenda, but it's for a different item. So, no, I wouldn't have any pull with them.
I think there was discussions at one time about, possibly getting the Parks and Rec involved with
Yeah,
that or do
and-
something, and I know
You're on the
that
Parks and
you're
Rec.
you're actually working with the Forest Service, and they're kind of restrictive on how they
yeah, Warren's
do
on the
things,
Parks
so.
and Rec, so.
I'm on the Parks and Recreation Board, and it's what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2
It's
years
been about
ago.
2 years ago, CVB reached out to us, and we discussed, the Parks Board discussed taking over Mantle Point. But in return, we asked the Forest Service that we was gonna maintain that park. We wanted them to deed that property to the county. Of course, Forest Service said, we're not giving up being government property, so we dropped the issue. And that was as far as it went with the Parks Board.
And I asked them about, because I'm thinking in there may be opportunities for camping sites or something in there, and they told me that they cannot disturb that property due to Indian relics or something
Yeah.
within that area, so they can't actually do anything with that, because I was thinking that might be an opportunity for someone that would lease it or do something there to be able to put some kind of camping facilities in, get some revenue, then in turn clean the ramp, as part of the deal, and do some way to make it work, but they said it couldn't be disturbed, so.
They're wanting something for nothing, basically. They're
It's,
wanting somebody else to take care of it for them, and
But I mean, it is a nice park. The question is sometimes.
Yeah,
barrier.
they did have the concrete barriers when we all got involved.
And I think that was probably for the entrance of the park.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Because I know at the time, because I remember going out there and I thought, this is a nice park with restroom facilities.
Yeah.
And that's nice for those, especially like the motorcycles.
For the motorcycles and the
It's a
Jeep
place to
runs,
stop in and-
that's a bathroom break.
Yes, it is. And they can sit there and pack their lunch, and it's a nice park.
Yeah,
It's a nice park.
thank you.
I kind
Thanks,
of agree
Ben.
with Randy. Could we do it this year and then see what happens next year? First of the year?
That's why I went to them, that you guys will have this discussion and
Is it,
see where we
I
go.
wonder if it'll be about the same amount of money.
Well, Steve said the cleanout it was nearly 4,300, but he said
That's when it was
initially
bad.
the big dig out. The question is how much is silted back in a year?
If we don't have any more floods this year,
He won't know that
You
until
don't
he
know
gets
it?
started on it.
Yeah.
That's when he'll.
Steve, was that part of that 43, just refresh my memory, was that all labor hours or was that equipment and,
That was equipment and labor.
equipment and labor, okay?
See, but he's got a rate. That's your rate you charge that you establish.
Yeah.
It's reasonable. His rate is reasonable. It's just a matter of, and the majority of it was the initial cleanup. Now, the
Right,
question
which is pretty bad, like you said, 8 foot of
Yeah, there was
mud.
8 foot of mud on that ramp. But,
Yeah.
Normally, it's only a foot or 2 feet at most, maybe.
Depends what the rivers brought in this year.
Yeah,
We had part of it, we had to haul some of it off of the, away from the ramp, because there's too much just to go on the lower side.
mhm. Well, hopefully if you don't get any signs from your highway department crystal ball that we're not gonna have any more floods, that would be really nice.
Lost that crystal ball.
Huh, you lost it? Okay,
Somebody took it or something.
okay.
I like the comment you made a couple years ago, Steve. We have these 100-year floods. You must be 700 years old, right? Have you seen a lot of them?
What do you want to do?
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and do it. We're already into April.
Well, we haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
What we have to do with the Forest Service is we have to let them know we're gonna do it for a year or we're not gonna do it. and they'll act accordingly.
Can we do it to the end of 2023?
I mean, we can do whatever we want to with it. It's an annual renewable agreement with the Forest Service to carry out the cleaning of the ramp. So,
Try it this year and see what happens. Funds could become available anytime, at any moment, so, that we could use there.
Randy?
I'm good with that, because I'd like to see an average of a couple years, see where we're at, so.
Okay.
If Steve at the highway's good with it, doing it again. Okay.
So Steve, as you do, keep good records, and we'll see exactly where this goes. So what I want to do is then have a motion to continue it for the 2023 year, to see what our costs are, and then we'll revisit it in '24.
I make that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 3-0. So we'll see what it does this year. I'll get a hold of the Forest Service and let them know what we're gonna do. That's the end of it. Anybody's got any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's over.
Meeting next Wednesday, that's at 6, right?